No.
Oh, hi, Alex here. Can someone confirm that you can hear me?
Yep, can hear you, Alex.
All right, great. Thanks, Ken. Hi, everyone. Okay, that's an interesting question. So, what kind of organization is PWC? That means we are not doing good work enough in, profiling ourselves, I guess.
Maybe we ask Patrick, what are you studying and which universities are you at?
But yeah, anyway, it's okay. Not everyone will know about us. Like when the first time I joined PWC, I didn't know about it. Okay, probably to address the question properly is that well, PWC is technically traditionally it's more known as an auditing firm, right? So when it comes to financial accounting or anything to do with assurance to numbers, that pretty much what we are known for in general. But I will call it as a professional service firm. So we do a lot of different types of work as well. So it's not just assurance or audit type of work. We also do advisory. which is more related to consulting, and we also have taxation services as well. Yeah, so I would just put it as a professional services firm where we have multiple types of services that we actually offer to our clients.
Okay, maybe with that, right, Alex, I think since some of the audience might not know who we are, right? So I think why not we start with a bit of an introduction of yourself, and then what do you actually do here within PWC?
Yep, sure. While waiting for more questions as well. So happy to intro as well.
Yep.
So hi everyone. I'm Alex. I'm a senior manager with PWC Malaysia. With me, I have Ken and Chuma as well, which is from HR. So we are here today to, in a way, answer your questions if there are any. So for me personally, I've been with the firm for close to about 10 years. I've been leading the cybersecurity team currently as well. And the work that we do involves a lot around around things like regulatory and risk regarding cybersecurity matters, all the way until things like security testing and hacking our clients to make sure that we find vulnerabilities or problems before others do. So we help them to improve on your overall security and advise them on how to be better when it comes to new technologies, new risks that they are facing, or new service offering that they intend to go on. So that's at a high level in general what we do. Of course, we do more than that, but those are the main few things that we service our clients with regards to my team. So there's a question from Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, Emily asked, right, in your opinion, have we classified our data according to risk, high, medium, or low?
That's a very good question. So this is what we normally call a data classification in the corporate world. So in that sense, every company would need to have an idea what type of information or data that you're processing as a whole. And the classification will help you to risk rank them, like to your question, right? So, so generally, data classification allows you to know what's important to you or what's least important to you when it comes to that, and what are the appropriate safeguards or measure you can put against those things. If your question is with regards to PWC, yes, we internally do have that ranking of data. So what's with what level of clearance and what type of audience that you can disclose those sort of data to. So of course, the higher confidentiality, or sensitive the information is, the more things you need to do to protect them. So yes, PWC do have that, and big corporates normally would have that as well, because it helps them in their planning and also safeguarding some of the risk that comes with securing the information. So hope that answers that question.
Okay. And we have a we have a question from Sojo Yamaguchi as well, right? And the question is how COVID-19 has created new opportunities for cyber threat and how to mitigate this risk.
To answer Shoso-san's question, so I think just a very brief update to everyone as well, because with the emergence of COVID and all, right, from a cyber threat landscape or cyber attacks frontier, right, there has been a lot of in a way imposters, right, where they prey on the uncertainty of the COVID-19 updates and all. So there has been attacks on things like fake emails that's been sent out to everyone in order to entrap you to give you information about yourself. So for example, it could be an information update on moratorium where you have payment issues that that you might want to get a deferment on paying the interest rates, or it could be things like, oh, there's a relief fund that you can apply to. I'm from this bank, why don't you give me your credit card information and banking information? So there are attacks that comes from that angle, including malicious attachments that's been sent in those emails as well. So there is definitely a spike in that. From a corporate perspective as well, because a lot of times we need to work from home now, and this is technically the so-called new normal, right? So a lot of organizations are not prepared to work remotely from home. So there are risk areas from that if, let's say, I allow my employees to work from home, are they safe? Do I have the tools that allows them to work from home safely? Because you do deal with data, and let's say the employee loses their laptops, or if they access from an internet from somewhere that is not secure, your data could be stolen from that angle as well. So those are all the risks that comes with it, with COVID specifically. So what we have also helped is that some of our clients, especially for those that has never gone on the digital platform, like sharing to, it's like those conference tools, like currently you're on Zoom, right? So some of them have embarked on Zoom, and also prior a few months ago, there was a vulnerability on Zoom whereby someone can just break into your invite link and eavesdrop on you. So there are safeguards in place that someone can do to mitigate those risks. So we are in a way advising what's the right step to go about it. What can the client do, or if they implement certain things, we can help them to review and make sure that you implement properly. Then you have other things like testing to make sure that you configure properly. So all advice from all that sort, and also some of the things that we have helped. So those are the common digital risks that we see, especially with the rise of COVID. So you have spear phishing attacks, malicious attachments that's been sent to you to get information from you from an infrastructure perspective as you go digital, sharing file platforms or collaborative platforms like Zoom or MS Teams. Misconfiguration of those, there is a risk of that. So those are the few things that we've been helping our clients recently as well on that.
Okay, interesting. And I guess the next question is from Jane, right? And this will be interesting to hear your views, actually, Alex. Jane actually asked, can we really trust cybersecurity? Can we truly rely on computer to protect our data?
Hi, Jane. Interesting question. I would separate the word trust and cybersecurity in the same sentence, but technically you need the trust element in cybersecurity. So that's how I put it, because in that sense, a lot of times my team is called digital trust and cybersecurity. That's why I separated them both, right? Because you need both of them to coexist. In order for you to use a platform, for example, let's say online banking, you need to trust that platform, that it is safe and have all the safeguards in place so that you don't get hacked, right? So in a way, that is the trust element that a lot of the digital platforms or banking platforms, they need to assure the clients or consumers that it is safe. So the trust element needs to be there. And technically, that's the gist of our team. We are in a way helping clients to build trust in the digital world to make sure that whatever services or things that they do that they embark on are safe from so-called intruders or hackers. So that we are building the element of trust there in cybersecurity. Can you rely on computer? Actually, you should rely on yourself. Short and simple answer, because it's really how you handle data as a whole. Computer is just a tool and means for you to process information, but how you share the information, how you store the information, how you transfer, for example, all those things are more, in a way, a direct consequence to it because of your actions instead of so-called relying on a computer, because a computer is just a tool at the end of the day. It's up to the user, which is the end users yourself, which is all of us. Hope that answers that question.
Okay, thanks. Interesting. Okay, I think you are right. A lot of the time we are the custodians of our own data, right? And we are the ones that are putting it at risk. Okay, another question. This is also quite interesting as well, right? From Shaira. So Shaira actually asked, did PWC also face those cyber threats? And usually, how long will PWC take time to handle it?
In a way, every big corporates out there, as long as you're connected to the internet, you're technically facing an attack every second. Of course, there are certain industries that face a lot more attacks, right? Like critical national infrastructures, banks, big corporates where you have a lot of sensitive information. Confirm you'll be a target of attack. I mean, we can't say much on this front, but definitely there will be, and it's on real time. So it's not to say that we don't take time to respond to it, but because it's happening in real time, we have to rely a lot on some of the measures that we put in place, some of the investments as well. So we have a team that looks at the security 24/7 across the globe, so to speak, for every different territory, right? Because we have offices all around. So it's the same for any big corporates out there that you can think of. Very similar. We don't deviate from the normal practices, so to speak. So we will respond as and when we have to, on a real-time basis, internally as well.
Okay. I think Jane also had another follow-up question then, right? In regards to, I think you answered part of it already, but the question is, how do we avoid cyber security threats?
The best way to avoid is to unplug yourself from the internet and don't use internet. I mean, there's some truth in that statement. The reason is because if you're connected to the internet and you're on the digital world, right? Like I said, the moment you're connected to the internet, you're prone to target to be a target of attack. It could be your consumer on a certain platform or the platform gets targeted. So while you can help to lower down the risk of you getting targeted by, like say, the service provider doing checks periodically to make sure that they are not vulnerable, they do regular patching, regular updates, right? If you are a target of attack, that those things are there, that they exist in a way to help deter a potential attack. So I mean, the service providers normally would have to do that, and as a consumer, you need to be vigilant. So you don't be subject of like a phishing attack. You get conned and you give your username password to someone else, right? So in a way, end user needs to do their part, but of course, there's a one major part of it that as the platform, the service offering from the clients that service you, they have to do their due diligence as well to ensure that the platform is safe. So that's what we collectively in an ecosystem you have to do, both from the service provider and also the end user side.
Okay, that's good to know. Then for another question from Emily. So Emily is actually asking, after COVID-19 pandemic, we will use more online tools like Zoom, which we are on currently. So what is the risk and how can we actually protect ourselves, right, from remote access cyber attacks?
Okay, so more online tools. So how is the risk and how to, okay, so I briefly mentioned the risks now. So because Zoom is a public platform, right? So if let's say like if you refer back to the past few months, there is a vulnerability on Zoom which was highly publicized, right? And a lot of people are jumping on the boat to complain. There will be certain risks that comes with using online platforms to share information. So it's either you do your part in securing the chat that you're in. So for example, like MS Teams and all, you can configure a PIN or a passphrase before you connect to the, like let's say to this Zoom chat, right? You can actually password protect it, for example. So not anyone that randomly dials in can just access the room. So those are the safeguards that normally you can put. But other than that, it's just periodic monitoring, making sure that your users understand that they could always be targeted by attacks and what can they do to, in a way, report or, don't get conned by the types of attacks that could come in their way. So that's how I would generally put it. Remote access wise, this is a very wide topic. So, but generally, whatever that we have shared earlier still apply. So it's really vigilance also at the end of the day.
Okay. Then we have another question by Nina. So how do we identify the stolenness of a firewall to avoid our data being stolen online?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Very technical.
I walk up to the firewall and knock on it and I see whether there's any holes. But jokes aside, right? I think this is a little bit more technical, but I'll generalize for the sake of everyone on the call. Generally, firewall exists in a sense that it's if I look at it simply, it's like a checklist, right? So there are things that you're allowed to pass through and the things that you don't allow to pass through. If you say the solidness, I would assume that whether is it effective in blocking things. So this is in a way as good as the checklist that's been defined, I would say, because a lot of clients, especially banks, right? Or big corporates, they would need to know the data they want to secure. For example, if you take the analogy of a house, you had a house plan, right? So you have a first floor, second floor, for example, you have the garden, you have the attic. If you have an attic in a house, or you have the backyard, right? So every part of the house is a section, right, within the floor plan itself, and then you put appropriate measures to make sure people don't break in. So for example, your house is protected by gates, right? So in a way, that's equivalent to an overall firewall. And then within the internal segments itself, you have your doors, you have keys to the door that you need to unlock. Occasionally, like let's say the storeroom that you may want to prevent kids from opening, you have a safety pin, that they cannot reach or unlock. All those things are in a way security measures in the real life that we put in. It's the same thing in the digital world, like firewalls as well. So you can segmentize applications or systems into different segments, so to speak, and you can have those controls that you implement, like I want segment 1 to talk to segment 2 only, but not from segment 3. So all those things can be put in the firewall. So in a way, the solidness of the firewall really depends on how you want to configure it. Of course, if you say I buy a firewall, I plug play in my network and I expect it to secure my network, then no lah, there's no silver bullet to it. You definitely need to configure and make sure it works. And of course, it's the more important thing is to test it. So how do you identify the solidness of it? Is really to test it eventually. That's why you have service providers like us or security vendors to, in a way, review your architecture to make sure that there are no loopholes or there are no weaknesses in it, or if there's any point of improvement. So that's how you quote unquote improve and identify solidness in the firewall.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's a lot for me to take in, especially when I'm not in this field. All right. Now, another question from Bob, right? Based on the webinar I just watched, would you say that we can know more about someone by seeing what types of ads shown in their phone? Because it has been predicting the type of content that the person might like. Love the webinar, by the way.
Thanks, thank you. To a certain extent, yes. If you know any friends in a marketing or branding agency that they use a lot of Google Analytics and also advertisements, right? I think the first thing they'll tell you is that as you subscribe to those digital channels to get information about the subscribers or your targeted audience, right? They normally have something what they call a user behavior profile, and they sometimes go by in a way what captures your attention. So it's the same thing that's highlighted in social dilemma that they go down to the extent that they can predict what can make you stay on the app longer. So it's the same thing will apply to ads. But nevertheless, of course, sometimes ads it's a hit and miss as well. Like you have someone that, prime example, right? So assuming that you have never gone to any of the let's take one example. You have never searched on anything that relates to snorkeling, right? But recently on Facebook, someone tagged you on a vacation photo where they're snorkeling, right? Although you have not searched for it, but doesn't mean that there's no targeted ads that shows you about snorkeling. But there is, because of an indirect link or a secondary link that advertisers can see from the platform, that could be an avenue for them to target a snorkeling ad to you. So while you may see a dodgy ad on someone's phone, right? You cannot just outright assume that they have done dodgy stuff before on the phone. But in that case, it's loosely defined that way. So it's not an accurate statement to say that you definitely think that the person has done or searched for that particular item when you see it on the ad, but sometimes it could really be just an indirect cause of information that's been shared to them that they monitor. I hope that answers that question. So yeah.
Okay. I think it does, because I also just learned about this as well, right? Not necessarily that I have searched for it, then only it will pop up as an ad for me. Okay, so that's interesting. Now, there's another question by Nina as well. How to handle cyber risk from vendors or any third parties?
How? Okay. So in a corporate world, there's something. This is actually a domain by itself, right? So it's really third party risk. So how do you handle your outsourced third parties in that sense, or vendor management in a sense, but it's more extended to really third party risk when it comes to cyber. Generally, you have in a way a guiding principle, or in a formal term, it's called policy and procedures on what they can do and what they can't. So within that, when you sign the contract with certain third parties or vendors, right, there would be undertakings that they need to agree to. So for example, they need to provide you a certain level of service which is customary in any agreements that you sign with a service provider. But on top of that, what have they done to safeguard the information, data, or platform that they're offering you as well? So, for example, in a contract, you could also dictate that you need to do security testing once a year minimum, and you need to provide us the results to make sure that you've tested it, or you need to allow us as the end user of your platform to test your platform as well from a security perspective. So that will apply to a lot of big corporations, MNCs, GLCs, or anything. So that's in a way the common way to handle third-party risk. And of course, you have safeguards in place to make sure that they don't simply access your data as well. So that could come from the point of physically to the building of your data center where your servers are stored or applications are stored. It could be on the cloud. Like, let's say they are managing the platform for you. What are the things they can do or they cannot do? What are the monitoring that you can have so that you monitor the activity and they don't do anything dodgy? So those are the few things that is commonly used to handle, in a way, third-party or vendors risk. But of course, generally, the word third party applies to everyone that is not you or the service provider. So that's in a broad sense, but specifically what I mentioned is a lot more to service providers, vendors that that signs a contract with you. I mean, from a corporate perspective, that they offer you services and what can they do to safeguard those cyber risks. So that I'm coming from that perspective more than a generalized third party.
Okay, all right. The other question I think is quite common among all of us if we were to be having a digital presence, right? And actually, it's a question by Nina asked, why do we need two-factor authentications?
Okay. So I think all of us have social medias and emails and all, right? Generally, how we access those platforms is we just key in our username or email, or depending on the identifier, and then you just key in the password to log in, right? Why two-factor is important is because assuming that your password has been compromised, right? The only thing that's stopping them from accessing your account is to not log in, or their internet, they got no internet access. Because once I have your username password, it's pretty much I have control over your account. So two-factor in a way allows you to have that secondary measure where, assuming that your username password has been compromised, right, they still need to in a way get that that second factor before they can actually log into your account. So that is the safeguard that prevents unauthorized access to your accounts. So in the terms of things like email, or let's say Facebook, right? Facebook allows you to have to tie it to a PIN as well. And also you get things like suspicious email login notifications if, let's say, you have been logged in from a place that you don't normally log to. So all those things are in a way linked to the second factor. So whereby you need to in a way prove yourself. If let's say there's an outlier in the pattern of your usage, right? So that will trigger a secondary factor. So if that is not enabled, right, you technically everyone can access your account anywhere in the world, for example. So there's a secondary element to that as well on that. But in a general sense, really what's stopping a hacker, so-called, from accessing your account is really your secondary factor, your two-factor, the secondary piece of information that they need to key in. So that can come in the form of a 6-digit PIN that can come from an application itself, or SMS, or emails, or in the case like Google, sometimes you can authenticate through the app itself, through your Google Chrome browser. All those things are two-factor authentication, so to speak. So that is the intention and rationale of having two-factor for authentication before you actually can log in. And you can see that common across things like digital wallets, payment infrastructures, even your social media accounts. You can, like Instagram, you can also tie to secondary factor as well on that. Hope that answers that question.
Okay. Now, thanks so much, Alex, for answering all of this question. And in fact, I think we only have about 3 minutes left. So I think I wanted to say, right, thank you to everyone for asking your questions. Your questions today are really, interesting, okay, and some which I also wanted to find out as well, and you helped me with that too. But I guess since we're down to the last 3 minutes, right, maybe since I don't see any more questions from the chat, Alex, any final closing words for everyone that's here with us before we end the session?
Yep, sure. So feel free to still ask the questions in the chat. I'll still take it if I have time. But nevertheless, I think first of all, thank you so much to Unlock Design for inviting us to support the event. And this is also my third year speaking, and this time is virtually, which is quite interesting. I think Ken can share that I was a little bit hesitant at first because we haven't done this virtual recording before. Not sure how it's gonna be like, but yeah, we did it anyway to support. But glad it turned out well, and I'm personally glad as well that you enjoyed the talk that was pre-recorded. And well, we hope to see you again in the future. And if you're a participant of the Space App Challenge, good luck to you. Yeah.
So maybe to close off, right, I think taking a virtual picture is always something that's quite interesting. Shall we go ahead and try to have everyone to turn on their camera and then we take a picture before we end?
Yeah, sure, let's do that. Although I can't turn on my camera.
Okay, I see. I think a lot of people also cannot, so I think that's okay then, never mind. Maybe anyone else have any final questions before we drop off? Okay, I don't think I see any coming through the chat. So I think that should be it. Well, I guess to close off as well, right? Thank you everyone for joining us for this session, and thank you Alex for answering all the questions as well. If you'd like to find out more about what we do within PWC, you can always visit our PWC Malaysia website. And if you are interested to apply to PWC as well, definitely you can submit your application through our portal. And I think more importantly, if any of you are looking at, being upskilling or looking at being digitally fit, right? So currently at PWC Malaysia, there is a digital fitness app which is available free for everyone to kind of have an understanding of, where is that digital fitness at this moment of time. And if you're looking at upskilling as well, there are a lot of interesting contents for you to go ahead and, download and to read as well through the app itself. So if I can advise, right, or give some sort of like, tips as well, do go ahead and explore and download this app. It is free, like I mentioned. If you find it not useful, then you can always uninstall it. But at this moment of time, if you are looking at, installing it or being digitally fit, right, there is this app to help you out as well. So do go ahead and visit the PWC Malaysia website. And once you are at the website, just look for a digital fitness app, and it will then be able to pop up with the link for you to download already. Okay, so with that, thank you everyone. Have a great weekend ahead and all the best in your NASA app challenge.
Yeah, thank you everyone.